Welcome, my name is Sherman Liang. I'm a software engineer at EP Analytics and also the games development lead. I'm very excited to share with you a preview of a tool that we're developing called Simplify Games. Our company is developing Simplify Games to help lower the barrier of entry of using state-of-the-art quantum chemistry software for academic, commercial, and government research. By providing a cross-platform infrastructure solution that shrink wraps a simple visual front end with access to on-demand computing resources and hides the complexity of both software compilation and deployment. This is a cross-platform visual frontend and can be used on Linux, Mac, and Windows operating systems. Today I'm going to demo Simplify Games visual frontend prototype on a Windows system. We'll begin by closing out the welcome screen. Simplify Games presents the users with a collapsible side navigations to create input files using McMulplot, Input Builder, or text editor, organize and visualize collections of scientific data, analyze data locally, remotely using Jupyter notebooks, and access local, remote, and cloud computing resources for calculations. Let's go ahead and launch McMulplot to create an input file. Go ahead and build your input file, add our hydrogens, and then we can access the McMulplot input builder to write this to a file. And by just doing it directly, what we'll do by default is create a Hartree-Fock single point energy calculation. Let's go ahead and call this demo.imp. Save this, close this out. The input builder is equivalent to a McMulplot input builder, except that you don't have to launch McMulplot to access it. And the idea is if you have coordinates already and you need to fill in the other parameters of the input file, this is an ideal option. The text editor will allow you to open up existing files or create inputs directly using the text editor option. Here we can open up the demo that we just created. And then let's go ahead and change the title to something else, and then we can save this back to the same input file. And this is just the create capabilities within Simplify Games. The Organize and Visualize option allows you to access collections of data. So under Organize, we can connect to one of two PostgreSQL databases that I've configured for the demo. These databases contain scientific information about calculations that we ran with games, usually the standard exams and the metadata that's extracted from the log files of those exams. And so we can go ahead and click on an entry, and if there's an input file available or a log file, you have the option to download it, or you can also edit the entry of the database. You can edit the entry within the database. The Visualize will allow you to select a record, and then if there's an input file or an output file available, you can then open it directly within McMulplot. And this is more of a convenience so that you can avoid several steps, which is downloading the file, open up McMulplot, and then navigating to the actual file with McMulplot. So we can click on an entry and then click on open with McMulplot and then see visualize it here. Let's go ahead and get out of this. The Analyze option will allow you to access data and then perform analysis either locally with a Jupyter notebook or remotely with Jupyter Hub. So we have Jupyter Hub deployed on the US East instance in AWS, which is next to the PostgreSQL US East instance. And the idea is that you bring the analysis to the data, especially if the data is really large. And so here we can log in. There we go. And I already have a notebook that is prepared that will pull in credentials, connect to the PostgreSQL database, and then dump the results. And we can go ahead and run this. This will dump the entire results of the database. And to show that this is live code, we can dump the last result of the database. And so the idea is that the tools, such as Jupyter, are available through Simplify Games to perform in situ data analysis capabilities, such that if your data is large, it's much easier to move the analysis to the data as opposed to the other way around. So then moving on, we can access the Compute tab to deploy jobs locally, remotely, or on the cloud. And so let's go ahead and launch this. And so what we'll do is we are going to go ahead and upload an input file that we've already created, demo local. And because this is a Windows operating system, if we launch games locally, we'll be using the Windows distribution of games. And I'm pleased to announce that the 2020 R2 games binaries are currently available, and that's what we'll use in this demo. So we can use the input file to scroll down to demo local, and then select the proper version, and then submit this to the queue. We can go ahead and move on to the remote, and let's go ahead and upload the demo remote for that. Select that input file. Select the remote resource. So the idea here is that if you have the Simplify Games backend running on the head node of your cluster, then what you do is you're exposing the compute resources that are available to that head node to your end users, and they're able to submit their jobs using our simplified visual frontend. And so we'll go ahead and submit this job. And you can see that as we were doing this, our previous job had already finished. And so we can go ahead and click on the job ID, and we see that we have a summary of the results here. And what happens is that we have the ability to extract some of the data, scientific data from the log file. We store this into a JSON file, and this is what we actually use for validation within games. So we use that, we're reusing that capability here to present a summary of the results. And if you like, you can download the log file if you want to view the entire content, and you can just click here. And really, because this is a local run, downloading is just a matter of just copying it over to a different file, to a different folder. And so let's go ahead and save this as demo.log. And then what we can do is go back to macmulplot, open up macmulplot, and then access demo.log. Here we can render the 3D molecular orbitals for one of the orbitals on the structure. And then you can see here's one of the molecular orbitals. Go ahead and close this one out. We go back here, and then we can now, let's go ahead and click on the cloud, and then click on upload a file there. And we have an AWS instance that's deployed in the cloud, and we can upload and submit a job to this resource. So let's go ahead and select this file, AWS Cloud, and go ahead and click Submit. And we see that our run on Bolt had completed, and what we had done here is that for the Bolt run, we tied it. We had a script that would parse the summary of the chemical data into a JSON file, and then the input, the JSON file, and the log file are then entered into the database. And so here, the name of the input file is demo remote, and if we go back to the organize tab, we will see that demo remote is available. We can go to the visualize tab, and let's see, let's just make sure that this is the right one. So demo remote, okay, so the job ID was 7298, and so let's go back and make sure that, yeah, so this is it right here. And so we can go ahead and visualize the output here. Let's go ahead and render the one of the surfaces again. Here we go. Let's close this out, go back to our cloud to see if that job's finished. And here we have this job finished. And so if we go back to visualize, and we had it set up to push to 2 different databases, so we have to switch back over to the other instance, and we'll see that the demo AWS is there. And let's just make sure that we have that correct one. That UID is EE30. Let's go back, and we see that it's right there. And we can go ahead and do the same thing by clicking on this. It'll open this up. And yeah, why not? Let's visualize some of the orbitals. Oh, there we go. And that concludes the demo for today. This demo is tied to a survey, so we would be very appreciative if you took the time to complete the survey. What that will do is that will allow us to prioritize our phase 2 roadmap for Simplify Games.